Well, we're going to dig into our brand new series called Simply Christmas. And today, in this introduction one, let me just say this. I believe that this series of messages over the next few weeks, if you'll let God do a work in you, it will prepare you for the best year next year, to have the best year you've ever had. Because I believe that one of the things that God's wanting us to do is to get back to the basics. And we need to simplify our life. How many feel like your life is overcrowded and there's things that press in on all sides? How many of you feel like you didn't have any time during the last few days? You just felt like you ran, had stuff to do all the time. Who braved the Black Friday shopping? I'm sorry for you. Okay. Anyway, so some did. But especially as Christmas approaches and as we prep, sometimes we get our focus on the wrong things. How many of you have ever got a Christmas present and you want to go, what in the world were they thinking? You ever get one of those? Yes. I noticed this the other day when I was up in Pigeon Forge at the Christmas shop. We were picking up something and we were going through the line, and they have all that little junk on the sides. And it's so tempting. It's like, but I heard both people in front of me and behind me. It was mom and a grandmother and a daughter, and they were going through. And it's like, we need to get. Let's get that. That'll be a great stocking stuffer. And before long, they're filling up their cart with all this junk. Well, today I want to help us see that maybe we're complicating our life too much with all the junk that we're adding. So I want to start today with this basic premise. Number one, the world is not your home. The world is not your home. Now, what is that all about? Well, it's that we have to put ourselves into the right perspective to understand that, many times we accumulate too much. And it steals away the simplicity of our life, and it definitely steals away the simplicity of Christmas. We can get so many things. And over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about unpacking and letting go of some of these things that we get focused on. And through this series, we're going to take a journey to simplify. I believe that if we'll take hold of this, it will help us understand this. It is better to have less of what doesn't matter and more of what does. It's better to do that. And that helps us get back to the real reason for Christmas. The real reason for Christmas. So, our culture says everything opposite of what God says. The culture says more, more, more. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, every ad, everything, you got to have more. You got to have this. You got to have that. It happens all the time. But it really is nothing more than a reflection of the very first lie told in the garden. Let's go back to Adam and Eve. Okay, Adam and Eve. Now picture this. If you can picture in your mind's eye, you've got this beautiful lagoon. And I imagine it with a beautiful, it's got this lagoon, there's a waterfall, there's every kind of fruit tree in the world you can think about that's around this. It's just the most beautiful place that you can imagine. And God's created this, and He's put Adam and Eve in this garden. And He said, guys, you can have everything in this garden except for this one tree. And what does Satan do? He comes along and he creates this discontent with 99.999% of the entire garden. He creates a discontent with that by saying, did God really say you can't have that tree? He's holding out on you. If you had that tree, then you would have it all. Right? And that is exactly what culture says. In fact, the world says it this way. What you don't have is what you need to be happy, fulfilled, and complete. What you don't have, because, if you just had the right car, Chuck, You know? See, if you just had the right house, if you just had the right appliances or the right tools or the right this or the right that, you would be happy and fulfilled and complete. You know, this whole thing of more is always better. If you have $100, you want $200. You know, if you have one car that's good, it's like, no, I gotta have two cars, and I need one that's better than the one I've got. Doesn't matter how much you go into debt. Hey, I just got to have more. You know, one vacation, look, I watch on Facebook. You guys are always going on vacation. I got to have like 5 vacations, you know, just to keep up, you know. But you see, the more makes us want to go on these sprees. Really, it's nothing more than addictive behavior. But you know, have you ever been on a spending spree? A lot of times people do this on Black Friday. They go in and they go through and go, oh, that's a good deal. Oh, look, there's another good deal. And before long, you have three carts full of stuff that you didn't even plan to spend on. But it was such a good deal. You are spending money you don't have, and you're happy, right? At the moment until you get your credit card bill. You see, we can get on all of these sprees of wanting to fill ourselves, but really, we're trying to fill our emptiness with something that's only filled by God. See, we're trying to fill that emptiness that's on the inside with something that's only filled by God. We're trying to find our significance by possessing things, and guess what? I'm telling you, it's not in the stuff that you have. So today I want to share with you a simple way of living. And it comes from Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 6. And I call it really one handful living. It says this: better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. One handful of stuff with peace and tranquility, or 2 handfuls that you're working and chasing and hoping that you have enough to fill that need in your heart, and yet you never do. The guy who wrote this happened to be Solomon, who was the richest person in the world and the wisest person in the world. He'd come to this point where he realized stuff doesn't, having both hands full of stuff is not where it's at. Jesus basically put it this way in Luke chapter 12 and verse 15. He said to them, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Guys, we got to understand that we need less of what doesn't matter and more of what does. You know why? Because life is too valuable for us to waste time. And your calling is too great for you to lose it on something else, on a bowl of soup. I'll get to that later. But God is too good, and you got to understand things don't last. This world is not your home. So let's put it in perspective. Your life does not consist of your stuff. My life doesn't consist of my stuff. I am not what I have, what I own, what I drive, what I wear. Now, that's not what culture says, but that's what is true. I'm not that stuff. Now, I know that when I was little, we didn't have as many TV ads as we have now. Now you get them on your cell phones. I probably got about 60 emails in the last few days. Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday, Black Friday. Here's our deal for Black Friday, Black Friday. We used to just have the Sears and Roebuck catalog. But you know what? That had pages and pages of all kinds of things we wanted. By the time I got through circling, you couldn't read through some of the pages because I put so much marker. It's like, what is, it's like, you ain't getting all that stuff, boy. It just, but that's what media does, is it preps you and it stresses you out about all the stuff, and it's shouting everything that's opposite of God. You got to have this stuff. Remember bread makers? Everybody had to have one. And you had to have the accessories with it, the little bread cutter so you could put the electric knife. Now it's this year it's air fryers. Yep, got to have an air fryer. I don't know why. We never used them before, but we got to have an air fryer this year. A few years ago it was Soda Stream. You can make your own sodas at home. Wow. It's always something that media is promoting, but we've got to learn what's really important. Paul put it this way in Ephesians 4, verses 10 through 12. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned but had no opportunity to show it. He was saying, I know you were worried about me, but you didn't have an opportunity to send me a gift because they were sending him a gift to help the church grow where he was working. He says, I'm not saying this because I'm in need. Catch this. For I have learned to be content whatever the circumstance. Boy, for contentment. Think about that. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. He lived with a different paradigm. He thought about different things. He understood that there were things more important than the stuff we have. The world says you are what you have, what you own, what you drive, what you wear, and if you don't have it's what you need that determines whether you're happy or popular or cool or hip or fit in or feel good about yourself. Some people, they're holding on. They want a house like Joanna Gaines. They want the Pioneer Woman's Kitchen. They're looking for things. They want Ted Nugent's rifle. They're looking for something to fill that void. If they just had that, man, I'd be content if I just had that. But is that what life's all about? The world's attitude is, hey, he who dies with the most stuff wins. Guess what? He who dies with the most stuff still dies. And it's who you know when you die. Do you know Jesus or you don't know Jesus? Because if you don't know Jesus, guess what? You're not going to enjoy the next one, the next life. I'm telling you. So here's a question I want you to think about before I get into telling you how to live this life of one handful living. What if the stuff that you have is robbing you of the life you want? Let me say that again. What if the stuff you have is robbing you of the life you want? Sometimes we've brought in so many different things, and it's created so many cares and so many worries and so many things like that it's not worth it. So I want to go back to simplicity. So here's 3 steps to one handful living. All right, I'm going to quit preaching, go to meddling. Here we go. Number 1, let it go. Let go of your stuff. Now, I am confessing in front of you. Kelly really quit preaching, went to meddling with me earlier. She said, you're not a pack rat, you're a hoarder. I'm like, I'm confessing that I have a tendency to hold on to stuff. I was raised by a daddy who went through the Depression, and you know what? We never threw out anything. If you had extra screws from something you put together, it went in a can. In fact, when he passed and I had to go through all his stuff, I found, there had to be 30 coffee cans full of screws, and none of them matched. I couldn't find, I love my dad, but I came by it. I own it now. I've become that way. But is stuff what it's all about? No, it's not. So we don't need to just declutter. What we need to do is de-own and let go of it. Because owning less is better than organizing more. Because before long, you can only put so much in that room. Okay? So let's get some biblical perspective from this. You see, the rich young ruler in Matthew chapter 19, he comes to Jesus and he said, Jesus, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus said, well, you know the commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. He goes through the commandments. He said, oh, Lord, I've done all of those since I was young. I mean, he thought he had it together. And he said, well, you lack one thing. He said, sell all that you have and give it to the poor. And then you'll have treasures in heaven, and then you follow me. And this verse is a very sad verse. It says, when the young man heard this, he went away sad because he had great wealth. You never know what idols you have until Jesus asks you to let go of them. Stop and think about that. What thing, if Jesus said, hey, give me that you'd go, hey, God, I'm good with you. Can we negotiate? Don't ask me for that. But you see, you really don't know what's become an idol in your life until Jesus asks for it. Got quiet in here. But you know what? I want you to understand that the Holy Spirit is trying to do a work of adjusting our perspective of the way we see life and what we're doing and how we're doing life so that we get back to what's more important. Remember, we got to let go of what doesn't matter to get more of what does. It's not wrong to have things. It's just wrong when things have you. It's not wrong. Listen, God, this is the perspective that God has helped me change in my life, is everything that I have is God's already. I don't own it. My house is not mine, it's God's. It's a tool in His hand. So if God uses my house, that's why I love having parties. I love having people over. I love hosting. Why? Because it's a tool. My truck, you know, when I first got it, I was starting to get into that thing. I had to polish it just right. And I mean, the first time I went to drop off food and to get food for the church, the guy said, oh, I'll help you. And he was going to take the trailer off. It went right up and it went scraped a place about that much on my truck. And, you know, I wanted to get upset. And I'm like, no. You know what? This is a tool in your hand. If it gets scratched up, I ain't taking it with me to heaven. Keep it in perspective. Do I want to keep things well and taken care of? Sure I do. But you got to put it in perspective. If what you have distracts you from what matters most, you need to let go. You need to let go of it. Okay? Now, why do we hold on to things? Because some of you, I relate to both of these. But there's two main reasons why we hold on to things. Fear and sentiment. You know, those knickknacks that you have, those VHSs, I have about 150 of them. But I still do have a VHS player. But whenever I watch one of those on a VHS player, it's like, why am I watching this? This is horrible compared to a DVD. You go, why did we ever watch this? This was really bad, you know, but that was what we had at the time. I mean, some of you have got pants in the drawer that you haven't worn in 20 years. Get rid of it, okay? But the reason why we hold on to it, number one, is fear. Well, we might need it. Our children might need it. Guess what? If you don't need it, they don't want it. FYI, okay? You know? But we don't want to waste, and so we're fearful to let go of something. This is one thing I struggle with because it's like, but I could use that. I mean, I will save little pieces of wood like this. Some of the boys that have helped me know, I'll say, I can use that block. A 2x4 is expensive. You know, I can use that block of wood. Why? Because we're fearful that I don't want to waste anything. And then the other reason we do is it's because of sentiment. It's something, I've still got my blue ribbon from the 4th grade when I won that 4-H thing. Guess what? Nobody cares. I've still got a box of all my little trophies and stuff. Guess what? Nobody cares. Why are you holding on to it? Because of sentiment. Some people, it's about that. They got in a little frame their baby's lock of hair of their first haircut. Nobody cares. And definitely your child will not care 20 years from now. You got what? You know, some of you are still holding on to your baby's first diaper. Hopefully it's not Pampers, okay? I mean, throw those away. My mama turned my diapers that were cloth, she turned them into polishing rags for the furniture, okay? Listen, but listen, let me give you some practical ways. The bottom line is we've got to get down and remember that this world is not our home. We're not taking it with us. And to trust God as our provider. That when you get there, you will have what you need because He meets your needs according to His riches and glory. But here's the practical thing. If you got multiple things, keep one and give one. You know, if you haven't used it in a year, let it go. Clean out your closet. Okay? There's an author by the name of Marie Kondo. It's a little Japanese lady, and she's got this book that she wrote called Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. She's even got a series, I think, on Netflix. And I watched a little bit of one in prepping for this, and I'm like, I don't like her. You know, she bothers me. But you know, she just really has a simple way of saying it. What she does is she says, take everything you got, put it in a pile. And she says, here's what you do. You pick something up. If it brings joy to you, then you keep it. But if it's something that you don't really think, now she says this, take the item and fold it up and give it away or trash it. Don't thank the item. Thank God that you got blessed with that, okay? Thank God that you got blessed with it. But if it served its purpose, then pass it on so it can be a blessing to someone else. All right. So don't let the stuff crowd out what matters most. Let it go. That's number one. Number two, buy less. Some of you may need to, after this sermon, take some things back from yesterday or Friday, okay? All right. But the reason why we buy things is for many reasons. So let's talk about some of those. Number one is escape. You know, sometimes it's entertainment. In fact, I've got a statistic here. 62% of people admit to shopping to cheer themselves up. They do it because they need to feel good. So we go and do that. Or we want something clean and new. Or maybe it's a symbol of power or monetary significance. It's a good deal. But see, if you're buying all this stuff and you're buying stuff that you really don't need with money that you don't have, what it's going to do is it's going to be like that two-handful living where you're toiling and you're chasing after the wind and you're always behind because you're paying for stuff that you really don't need. Psalms 119, 36 and 37 helps give us a spiritual perspective on this. And so here's what it says. And this is in the Passion Translation. It says, cause my heart to bow before your words of wisdom and not to the wealth of this world. Help me turn my eyes away from illusions so that I pursue only that which is true. Drench my soul with life as I walk in your path. Man, that speaks loads of wonder and can speak to our heart where we're dealing with. First of all, don't focus on the wealth of this world. Focus on what God's wealth is. His words are wealth and life to us. He says, don't get caught up in the illusion of all this. Because the last time I checked, when you go to a funeral, they don't have a U-Haul behind the hearse to take the stuff with you. You don't get to take it with you. The only thing you get to take with you to heaven is another person. So let's get the main thing. And then this last part, what I said a while ago, is a lot of times we're buying things to fill the void that only God can fill. Look at this last point. Drench my soul with life as I walk in your paths. You see, getting back to the simplicity of Christmas is recognizing the reason that Jesus came. And he came, number one, to fulfill us, to be with us, to complete us. In fact, in Matthew 1:23, the Bible says this about his birth. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. What's God's purpose? Is he wants to come and be with us. If you're buying stuff to fill that need, guess what? It's going to be like an empty hole that you keep putting stuff in and putting stuff in. And I've seen people throw money. I've seen people throw accomplishments. I've seen people throw stuff at this hole, and it keeps dropping through. Why? Because there's only one person that can fill that hole, and that's Jesus. And what does he want to be? He wants to be God with us. See, when we have a life full of God, we don't need stuff to fill our void. So practically, let me give you some things. Buy less. Because some of you are under this thing, and I grew up like this. And you had to buy a gift for Aunt Susie's twice removed cousin. And that if you didn't have every person covered in your family with a gift, and you got everybody a gift, and the people in your family, they had to have 8 to 10 gifts. And you feel this pressure. How many of you have ever felt what I'm talking about? You feel, oh, I got to buy that. Well, I got to get this person. Well, I need to give that. Don't do it. Here's the reason why. Because January, when you get your credit card bill, or you see how it hits your bank account, you're going to be frustrated. Because you know what, those toys that you bought for your child, you know what they're going to do? They're going to play with the box more than they're going to play with the toys. Go buy them a cardboard box and they'll enjoy it more than that $39, $49 toy that they got inside of it. I'm telling you. Sam did it to me so many times. It was so frustrating. Like, I just bought you a Rescue Hero tower and you like the box better. And so, you know what will happen? By January or February, your kids will get bored, and you'll be scratching your heads in March and going, why in the world did I spend so much money and they ain't even playing with it? So simplify. I remember my daddy telling me about his Christmas. Now, I understand my dad was 94 when he passed, right at 94 when he passed away. But I remember my dad telling me, he said, son, yeah, we might usually we'd get a pair of socks maybe, and we'd get a piece of fruit, an orange. That was a big deal back then because all the orange stuff would come up and they would get an orange or something like that, and he would get maybe one little toy. That's all they got. And you know what? They were happier. You know why? One handful living. They had peace. So here's what I'm encouraging you to do. Choose experiences over things. Choose experiences over things. Make memories this year, not credit card bills. Make memories, because that's the thing that you'll remember. I still remember at my Christmases back home, it wasn't about the toys. It was about time with my family. And I remember, one of the things that Liz and I and Sam still do to this day, we give each other a Dollywood pass for the year. You know why? Because we go up and we spend time together doing that together. I love the times, when he was little, a lot of times it wasn't about all the toys I bought. It was about the puppets. We'd get a puppets, and the puppets that I had from kids ministry, and he'd get behind the couch and he'd do puppets, and he'd have a puppet as big as him. Sometimes he'd be holding up a puppet. In fact, that's what I didn't have a lot of money when he was born, and so I decorated his room with puppets. And if I'd borrow one of them for Sunday morning at church, he would look up at there and he'd look at me and go, well, he couldn't talk at the time. He'd just go like, "What's up, Dad? Where's my puppet?" But those memories are stuff I'll never, ever forget. And they mean the most. So choose experience. And it's the same with God. Guys, it's having an experience with God. God wants to know you. He wants something that's way more than your money. He's wanting a time with you and to intimately know you. That's what's important. Let me move on. Last one. Give more. Number 3. Give more. 1 Timothy 6:17-19 says this. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Understand this. Don't put your focus on your money. I've seen people forsake church. I've seen people forsake their family after a pursuit of money. Guess what? Money's not going to buy you happiness. You can have all the money in the world, and that's why a lot of people who win the lottery blow their brains out. You can have all that stuff in the world, and yet if you don't get back to what really matters, you miss it all. He says, don't put your hope in that. Put your hope in God, who is the one who provides all of this for our enjoyment. God's the supplier of all of it. Let me go on. Verse 18. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous, willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Man, those few verses speak so much. It's like if you want to really grab hold of it, realize your money is not what's important. What's important is taking hold of the God who you're going to spend eternity with. This life is but a blip. It is here and gone. But eternity, we're going to spend. Put your hope in God. And when you do that, when you understand that, again, all of your stuff and all of your money becomes nothing more than a tool. Our natural tendency is selfishness, right? You don't have to teach a kid to go, mine. Don't, mine. No, mine. Why? Because that's part of that sin nature. Selfishness is part of that sin nature. But guys, it's when we learn how to let go and trust God with our finances. And this is not a giving message, but I want to give you a testimony of a family. Because you say, Pastor, I don't even have barely enough to make ends meet. Well, here's the thing I want to challenge you with. If you begin to trust God with your finances, the only way you're going to be able to give more is to have more. Now, sometimes that is going out and getting extra work. But most of you don't have time to go get extra work. So how do you give more when you don't have any more? What you do is you eliminate those things that are not important so you can have more of what is important. I had this family I was doing counseling with in South Dakota, and the husband and wife came in. They were struggling in their marriage, and the main area that they were struggling in was finances. And she was upset. She go, Pastor, we barely can make ends meet. And he stops at the convenience store every time he goes to work. And on the way home, he stops at the convenience store and he does this. And I said, all right, bud, talk to me about that. He goes, yeah, I go by the convenience store. And we started tallying it up. Oh, he spends $5, $6 here on the way into work and $5 or $6 on the way home. You do that 5 days a week, 6 days a week. That's $50, $60 a week. That's, $200, $240 a month. And I started talking to him. I said, I know this is going to sound weird, but do you tithe? And they go, tithe? We can barely make ends meet. I said, but see, here's the thing. When you trust God, you put your hope in God and not in the uncertainty of riches, but you put your hope in God. God changes things. And so I did some counseling. I talked to them, did that. And after a while, they said, we're doing good. We're going to go. But they still hadn't completely bought in on that tithing thing. I think it was 6-9 months later, I run into them at a wedding. We had a big church, so I would see them in passing. Hey, how you doing? And I ran into them at a wedding, and they're dressed nice. And they go, Pastor, I got to tell you this. You know that tithing thing? It really works. And I was like, Wonder why? Well, and he said, yeah, we didn't think we could do it. We didn't know if it'd work, but we said, all right, God, we're going to trust you. We're going to step out in faith. So they started tithing. And he said, and I put some things, I went and started getting, like he told me, go get a case of Cokes, and I'd take a Coke and a thing of tater chips with me to work on the way, and I'd take some extra ones, and I did a few things like that. But we started tithing. He said, you know what happened, Pastor? 2 months ago, I got a promotion. He said, I'm getting $200 a month more now. And I'm like, do you see how God works when we trust Him first? Realize this world is not your home. You can't take it with you. So instead of worrying about how much you can gather up, trust God in this. Here's the questions I want you to think about for a second. Are you accumulating on earth what you cannot keep? Or are you investing in heaven what you cannot lose? See, because when you invest in the kingdom of God, you're investing in heaven. And you know where moth or rust or any of those things can steal away. See, the Christmas story, if we want to get back down to simply Christmas, it's a story about giving. For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish but have everlasting life. For God did not send His Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through Him. You see, God gave us Jesus, the world, so that we could be saved. So, this one handful living, how do we do it? Number one, let it go. Maybe some of you need to go through your stuff. Maybe there's stuff that you can give. Here's what I encourage you. If you don't have someone to give it to, then take it to the hospice thrift store or something like that, because I know they're a solid ministry. Take it somewhere. Give it to someone that can pass it on and make a difference in somebody's life. And you've probably got some things that you can bless somebody with. Ask the Lord to give you wisdom who to do that, and give some of it away. The second thing is buy less. Don't spend on things that won't satisfy and take you into debt. Don't spend on that. In fact, some of you, like I said, you may need to look at what you spent on Black Friday and take something back. Right now, if you do it, it's good return time, not after Christmas, just FYI. And here's the third thing. Give more. Sow into the kingdom and others this Christmas. What's better, to have an Instagram picture of a new outfit and lots of stuff and high debt, or to go spend time with your kids and have peace and joy and freedom and love? Let's keep the main things the main things. Let's simplify. Less of what doesn't matter and more of what does. Why? Because your life is too valuable. Your calling is too great. Your God is too good. And besides, things won't last. So, let's look at this scripture one last time. Ecclesiastes 4:6. Better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Why is one handful better? Here's why. Because if I've got both hands full, I have to lay something down to help somebody. But if I've got this, what God blesses me with, and I've got this other hand free, I can lift someone up. I can give something to someone. I can help someone. I can be a blessing. I can encourage them. I can offer them praise. I can build them up. See, never let our stuff keep us from living the life that we want. Never let stuff get in the way. Let's simplify. So how can you simplify? I encourage you to get back to the reason for Christmas. Let go of those things